Gasps filled the courtroom, not because of what Melania Trump said, but because of what she wore. A small, silver cross necklace is now at the center of a national firestorm. Was it faith, or a silent message to the jury? This is the moment that changed everything. Gasps filled the courtroom, not the kind you hear when a verdict is read, but sharper, unexpected. Whispers followed, eyes locked in. All attention turned to one person as she walked in with poise and silence. Melania Trump, the former First Lady of the United States, had just taken her place on the witness stand. But it wasn't just her calm demeanor or her signature style that captured the room's attention. It was something far more subtle, yet deeply symbolic, something that sparkled under the courtroom lights. A silver cross necklace, barely visible under her blouse, had just become the most talked-about object in the entire trial. What should have been a quiet, personal fashion choice turned into the centerpiece of controversy. In seconds, courtroom observers noticed it. In minutes, reporters were texting updates. And within hours, images and sketch renderings of Melania's necklace were plastered all over social media. Twitter threads, TikTok breakdowns, Instagram zoom-ins, the internet exploded. But why? What made that small cross around Melania Trump's neck such a big deal? To understand that, you have to consider where she was, what she represents, and what that necklace could mean in the broader context of a very public, very political legal battle. Melania was not on trial. She had been called to testify in connection with a legal case involving her husband, former President Donald Trump. The investigation centers around serious allegations, including potential financial misconduct, and her involvement or knowledge could be critical to the case. This wasn't just another witness appearance. It was a moment charged with pressure, power, and politics. Melania's courtroom presence alone made headlines. She's known for being private, quiet, and distant from the chaos that often surrounds her husband's political battles. So when she walked into that room, she already carried an air of mystery. But when she sat down and subtly adjusted her collar, revealing a small silver cross, everything changed. Some saw a woman turning to her faith during a stressful moment. Others saw something else entirely, a calculated, silent protest, a symbol meant to shift perception, win sympathy, or signal innocence. Almost immediately, voices from all sides reacted. Supporters said she was brave, showing faith in a world where it's often criticized or hidden. They said it was her right to wear a religious symbol, and that she wasn't using it as a tool, just wearing it as part of her personal expression. But critics argued the opposite. They claimed it was a quiet manipulation, designed to evoke a sense of purity or moral high ground. After all, this wasn't just a church service. This was a legal proceeding where every detail matters, especially in a case involving the former President of the United States. Legal analysts debated whether her choice could influence a jury. In a high-profile trial, perception can carry as much weight as evidence. Could a simple cross necklace plant subconscious bias in jurors' minds? Could it paint Melania as a symbol of righteousness in contrast to the allegations being discussed? Some attorneys warned that even small gestures, like specific clothing or accessories, can shape outcomes, especially when public opinion is already so divided. Religious leaders also chimed in. Some applauded her, defending her right to wear the cross as a personal expression of belief. Others felt uneasy. They questioned the timing and placement, asking whether using a sacred symbol in a setting full of political and legal tension was appropriate. The debate quickly expanded beyond the courtroom, touching on the role of religion in public life, especially when worn by political figures during sensitive events. Soon, body language experts and communication analysts started breaking down every moment of Melania's appearance. Several pointed out that she seemed to touch or adjust the necklace multiple times throughout her testimony. Was it nervousness, a comfort gesture, or a deliberate act to draw attention to it? Videos and analysis flooded social media, with some claiming her movements were too precise to be random. Others dismissed the theories as overreach, saying people were reading too much into something very simple. Meanwhile, fashion commentators joined in, speculating about the necklace's origin. Was it a family heirloom? A new piece chosen specifically for this occasion? Some suggested it may have been a quiet tribute to her son or mother. Others believed it was simply part of her regular wardrobe and had no deeper meaning. But in today's world of constant speculation, the internet wasn't satisfied with simple answers. A single piece of jewelry had sparked a cultural storm. As of now, neither Melania nor her team have commented on the controversy. No official objections were raised in court. No statements have been issued by the judge or legal teams. But outside those courtroom walls, the cross necklace has become its own storyline, separate from the case, yet deeply connected to how people interpret Melania's appearance and intentions. Whether it was an act of personal faith, a clever strategic move, or just a coincidence, one thing is clear: it worked. It grabbed attention. It got people talking. And in a trial where the stakes are sky high, even a subtle message, real or imagined, can shift the energy in the room. So, what does this all mean moving forward? Legal experts now say this moment could influence how future witnesses present themselves. Should there be new guidelines about religious symbols in court? Are we entering an era where image and symbolism are just as impactful as testimony itself? As the trial continues, one thing remains certain: Melania's necklace won't be forgotten. In a room full of arguments, evidence, and statements, it was the smallest detail that spoke the loudest. And whether that cross was worn for comfort, conviction, or influence, it reminded everyone that in today's world, every move is a message. Every gesture tells a story. And sometimes, a single necklace can change the entire conversation. Certainly, here's an expanded, 900-word narrative version of your original paragraph. This version keeps the tone engaging and informative, tailored for a YouTube audience with strong storytelling, natural pacing, and smooth transitions without any headings. Underscore 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 underscore. Melania Trump entered the courtroom with her usual composure, poised, quiet, and unmistakably elegant. Dressed in a sleek, dark suit and carrying herself with the same controlled grace she was known for as First Lady, her arrival still managed to catch everyone off guard. The courtroom had been buzzing with tension, anticipation, and speculation. And yet, as the doors opened and Melania stepped inside, the room fell into a hushed focus. No cameras were allowed, but those who were present later said that it felt like a moment pulled straight out of a political drama. People didn't expect her to show. Since leaving the White House, Melania had stayed mostly out of the spotlight, rarely seen in public, and almost never involved in her husband's ongoing legal and political battles. In a world where media thrives on every word and photo, Melania had been something of a mystery, silent, elusive, and seemingly uninterested in the storm that surrounded her family name. So when she appeared in court, unannounced and unexpectedly summoned to testify in connection with the highly publicized investigation involving former President Donald Trump, it shocked nearly everyone. She wasn't the one on trial, that much was clear, but her presence in that courtroom spoke volumes. Some speculated that she had information crucial to the case. Others believed it was simply a formality. Regardless, her appearance drew attention like a magnet. She moved to the witness stand with calm, measured steps. Those in the gallery described her as emotionless, composed, like she had practiced every step. As she sat down, there was a moment, brief but unforgettable, when she reached up, brushed a few strands of hair behind her ear, and subtly adjusted the collar of her blouse. In doing so, she revealed what would soon become the center of a massive controversy: a delicate, silver cross necklace resting just beneath her neckline. It was hardly flashy. Small, clean, simple. To the average observer, it may have looked like a personal keepsake, the kind of accessory one wears every day without giving it a second thought. But inside that courtroom, where every glance is measured, every detail cataloged, the necklace did not go unnoticed. In fact, it triggered an immediate shift in the room's energy. Court insiders would later report that prosecutors exchanged glances the moment the necklace was revealed. Members of the defense leaned in, whispering. Even the presiding judge reportedly looked up with a moment of visible recognition, his eyes briefly landing on the glint of silver against her otherwise conservative attire. No words were spoken about it at the time, but something in the air had changed. In that highly charged environment, Melania's necklace quickly became more than just an accessory. It became a statement, intentional or not. To some, it was a subtle nod to her faith, a sign of strength, a private comfort in a very public and pressure-filled moment. To others, it appeared far more deliberate, a symbol used to convey innocence, morality, or even quiet resistance to the accusations swirling around the Trump name. Within hours of her testimony, news began to leak to the outside world. Even though cameras weren't allowed in the courtroom, descriptions of her outfit, especially the necklace, spread rapidly. Political commentators, fashion analysts, and religious leaders all began weighing in. On social media, debates exploded. Was it just jewelry? Or was it a carefully chosen symbol, meant to stir emotions or influence perception? TikTok videos began analyzing her courtroom outfit. Instagram pages zoomed in on courtroom sketches, enhancing the necklace to guess its design. Some users called it a power move, while others accused her of trying to sway public opinion using religious imagery. Twitter, always quick to react, saw hashtags like hashtag Melania in court and hashtag cross-controversy trending within a few hours. The timing of the necklace was key. Melania hadn't been seen wearing it at major events in recent months, at least not publicly. So why wear it now, in this courtroom, at this moment? Theories emerged quickly. Some believed it was a message to her husband's supporters, a subtle way of aligning herself with values like faith, family, and tradition. Others thought it was more personal, perhaps a symbol of strength she clung to under stress. But the most talked about theory was the most controversial, that Melania wore the cross to project an image of purity and virtue, potentially swaying jurors or influencing how she would be perceived under oath. Experts in legal ethics began commenting. Some stated that, while wearing a religious symbol isn't prohibited in court, in a high-profile case like this one, even a subtle accessory can become a tool of persuasion. When the public is watching, and in this case, when the world is watching, symbols take on amplified meanings. Nothing is ever just fashion in these moments. Every detail is a message. Melania didn't speak much during the proceedings, sources say. She answered the necessary questions, remained calm, and exited without incident. But it was clear from the murmurs left behind that her presence had created a ripple effect. And while her words were recorded and reviewed by the court, the image of her sitting silently, cross necklace visible, left the strongest impression. As she left the courthouse, escorted by security and shielded from the press, she offered no comment, no glance toward the cameras, no gesture to the crowd. But the story was already out, and the symbol around her neck was already viral. Whether the necklace was a message of faith, a show of defiance, or simply a personal item with no agenda, it became the most analyzed part of the day. And in a moment filled with legal tension and political uncertainty, it was a quiet, shining cross that spoke the loudest. Within just hours of Melania Trump taking the stand, the internet was already ablaze. The hashtag Melania necklace began trending across every major platform: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and even Facebook. What triggered this viral wave wasn't something she said. It wasn't a heated courtroom moment or a shocking revelation from her testimony. No, what sent social media into a frenzy was a small, gleaming, silver cross necklace that peeked out from under her blouse. Courtroom artists who were sketching the high-profile scene hadn't even finished shading in her suit before the image of that necklace started circulating. Social media users zoomed in on the drawings, screenshotting, cropping, and enhancing, eager to dissect the cross's size, style, and possible meaning. Some claimed it was a simple fashion choice. Others insisted it was a direct message, subtle but powerful. Soon, debates erupted in the comments. Was it an innocent display of faith? Or was it a deliberate move, one that crossed the line between personal belief and public manipulation? Some interpreted it as a symbol of defiance, Melania's way of saying she stood firm in her beliefs amid growing public and legal pressure. Others saw it as an emotional appeal, designed to soften her image, evoke trust, and perhaps suggest a moral high ground. In a legal setting where perception can be as powerful as facts, that tiny cross had become a lightning rod of controversy. Supporters of Melania rushed to her defense. They flooded social platforms with messages praising her poise, calling the necklace a bold show of courage, faith, and quiet dignity. Many posted side-by-side images of her from the past, noting times she had worn similar crosses, arguing that this was nothing new, just part of her regular wardrobe. To them, the idea that a cross could be controversial was absurd. This is a woman standing by her beliefs. One tweet read, "Attacking her for wearing a cross says more about you than her." But on the other side of the debate, critics were just as loud and far more skeptical. Some accused her of weaponizing religion, using a sacred symbol to gain public sympathy or even influence the jury's emotions. In their eyes, the necklace wasn't just an accessory, it was a prop, a quiet, calculated tool used to tell a visual story, one of purity, innocence, and divine alignment. One viral post read, "Don't be fooled. That necklace was as political as any speech." She knew exactly what she was doing. And then came the legal experts. Courtroom analysts and attorneys began weighing in on cable news and legal blogs, addressing the complex and often overlooked question, can religious symbols be worn by a witness in court? Technically, yes. The U.S. legal system doesn't prohibit personal religious expression in courtrooms, especially not for witnesses. But in high-profile cases, optics matter, and even subtle choices can raise ethical concerns. Could a cross necklace, even unintentionally, influence a jury? Could it create unconscious bias? And if so, where do we draw the line between religious freedom and courtroom fairness? Some legal scholars argued that while Melania had every right to wear the cross, its timing was problematic. They pointed out that the courtroom is supposed to be a neutral space, a place where decisions are made based on facts, not fashion or faith. It's not about whether she has the right to wear it. One legal commentator explained, it's about whether doing so in that specific moment was ethically responsible. Others suggested that such symbolism could be considered a form of visual persuasion, a nonverbal way of influencing how a jury or the public interprets her testimony. While not illegal, they argued, it treads dangerously close to indirect jury tampering, especially when deployed by someone in the public eye, whose image and choices carry significant weight. Religious leaders also joined the conversation. Some came to Melania's defense, arguing that criticizing her for wearing a cross was, in itself, a form of religious intolerance. If a Muslim witness wore a hijab or a Sikh wore a turban, would we question their motives? One pastor asked in a televised segment, Melania's necklace is being turned into something it's not. It's a symbol of her faith, nothing more. But not all religious voices agreed. A few more progressive leaders suggested that using a religious symbol in such a charged legal setting, particularly when representing a political figure as controversial as Donald Trump, was a manipulation of sacred imagery. One theologian wrote, "This isn't about religion, it's about power, and using faith as a shield or sword in court is deeply troubling." What began as a routine testimony suddenly became a national debate about freedom of religion, courtroom neutrality, and the power of image. And as is often the case in today's digital world, the court of public opinion moved far faster than the actual court system. By the next day, the story had evolved from a legal update to a full-blown cultural commentary. News anchors discussed the necklace on morning shows. TikTok creators made breakdown videos, analyzing Melania's body language and whether she intentionally revealed the necklace. Conspiracy theories even surfaced, suggesting the cross was a signal to Trump supporters, or perhaps to a specific demographic, religious conservatives who had once admired her quiet elegance. And through it all, Melania said nothing. No statements, no clarifications. She left the courthouse the way she entered, silent, composed, and calm. But her silence only fueled more speculation. To many, it seemed like the move of someone who knew exactly the kind of attention she was drawing, and welcomed it. Whether the necklace was a sincere expression of belief, a clever courtroom strategy, or a mix of both, it had done something remarkable. It hijacked the narrative. What should have been a straightforward testimony turned into a symbolic battlefield where faith, politics, fashion, and justice collided. One thing's for certain. In this era of 24/7 media and viral imagery, nothing is just simple anymore. Not even a necklace. While Melania Trump has stayed silent about the necklace that sparked a national media storm, the world around her hasn't stopped talking. Since her surprising courtroom appearance and the quiet but powerful presence of a silver cross around her neck, headlines, debates, and online speculation haven't let up. Officially, Melania has not made any public statements. No press releases. No clarifying interviews. No tweets. But according to sources close to her, the necklace had no hidden meaning. It wasn't a political statement or courtroom strategy, said one anonymous aide who spoke with a major news outlet. She wears it regularly. It's personal to her, nothing more. It should have ended there. A simple piece of jewelry. A private expression. Case closed. But in a world where every glance is analyzed and every movement is broken down frame by frame, the story was just getting started. Body language experts and behavioral analysts weren't convinced. Several pointed out that during her testimony, Melania seemed to adjust or touch the necklace multiple times. These weren't large, dramatic gestures, but small, repeated motions. A brush of the fingers here, a shift of the chain there. For some, it felt deliberate, controlled, like someone drawing attention without wanting to be obvious. People under stress often revert to comforting gestures, one expert explained. But the way Melania interacted with the necklace didn't look like a nervous habit. It looked like she wanted it seen. That subtlety added layers to the debate. Was this just unconscious behavior? Or was it a form of nonverbal communication, a way to visually insert a message of calm, faith, or even moral superiority into a very tense, very public setting? And it didn't stop there. Some cultural critics speculated that the necklace wasn't just about faith, it was about framing. Framing herself as a composed, righteous figure in a moment full of chaos, scandal, and accusations. A clean, polished symbol of good in a courtroom where many believed darker truths were being unearthed. It's classic contrast theory. One political image consultant said, "When everything around you is messy, angry, and loud, being the quiet, graceful figure in the room makes you stand out, even more so if you're wearing a symbol tied to moral virtue." In that sense, the cross may have been performing double duty. A deeply personal item, yes, but also a visual tool, whether intentional or not. And in the court of public opinion, perception often matters more than intent. Others argued the necklace may have been part of a legal defense tactic, not coordinated by Melania, necessarily, but one that played into how jurors and the public interpreted her presence. It's a known phenomenon. Emotional responses can be triggered by visual symbols. A witness wearing a cross might subconsciously evoke ideas of honesty, humility, or even suffering. In a case like this, where Melania wasn't on trial herself, but her testimony carried weight, those subtle cues could shape how people emotionally connected with her. And then came the religious debate, perhaps the most divisive of all. On one side, religious freedom advocates and conservative faith leaders quickly defended Melania's choice. They insisted she had every right to wear a cross, in any setting, at any time. It's a sad day when wearing a symbol of faith is considered controversial. One pastor said on a national news program, "Melania is being judged not for what she said, but for quietly expressing a belief system many Americans share." Their message was clear. Don't turn faith into a weapon. Don't punish someone for wearing a cross. If she had worn a Star of David, a crescent moon, or a rosary, would people have reacted the same way? But others pushed back, raising serious questions about the appropriateness of religious symbols in legal environments. Some legal ethicists argued that while faith should never be suppressed, a courtroom, especially one involving national-level political consequences, requires a higher level of neutrality. Symbols carry power, said one commentator, and in court, power should come from truth and evidence, not from what someone wears around their neck. In more progressive circles, the conversation turned toward manipulation. Was the cross being used as a form of spiritual armor, shielding Melania from criticism and aligning her with moral superiority, all without saying a word? Or was it an appeal to a specific base, evangelicals, conservatives, or religious sympathizers, who might view her presence and her symbol as signs of grace and strength? More radical voices even called it a violation of courtroom decorum, going as far as to say it was tantamount to jury tampering. Though not in the traditional sense, They argued the necklace subtly influenced perception in a way that bordered on unfair. Meanwhile, others tried to bring balance to the conversation, asking if perhaps this controversy said more about us than about Melania. In an era where every public figure's choices are dissected in real time and intentions are assumed before facts are confirmed, are we guilty of projecting our own biases onto something that might simply be personal? One editorial put it perfectly. We live in a time when silence speaks louder than words, and a necklace can become a manifesto. Whether Melania meant to send a message or not, the necklace spoke volumes. It redefined the narrative of her courtroom appearance. It pulled attention away from her testimony and refocused it on imagery, faith, and interpretation. And despite her silence, the conversation around her grew louder with each passing hour. What began as a quiet courtroom moment, just a woman adjusting her collar, became a national talking point, blending religion, fashion, law, and symbolism into one massive public debate. And in the middle of it all, Melania said nothing. Perhaps that was the strategy all along. So what's the fallout from all this? In the days since Melania Trump's courtroom appearance, the ripple effects have been undeniable. Social media continues to dissect the meaning of a single necklace. Pundits, analysts, and faith leaders have gone back and forth in heated debates. Comment sections are flooded with theories, praise, outrage, and confusion. But when it comes to official action, so far there's been none. No objections have been filed in court regarding the necklace. The judge hasn't made a ruling about it. No request was made for Melania to remove it. Not during her testimony, and not after. At least, not yet. But that doesn't mean it's over. Far from it. Legal scholars and courtroom analysts say the incident has opened up a very real conversation about how much influence nonverbal cues can have in a courtroom, especially in high-profile cases involving political figures, media attention, and emotionally charged issues. They point out that while the law is built on rules of evidence and procedure, human perception doesn't always follow those same rules. Courtrooms are supposed to be neutral ground, one attorney explained in a televised interview. But humans are emotional creatures. We respond to symbols. We read into body language. We interpret what we see just as much as what we hear. And in this case, what people saw, a poised, silent former First Lady, wearing a small, gleaming cross, left a powerful impression. The bigger question now is what comes next. Should there be clearer rules about what witnesses can wear in court? Are religious or symbolic accessories fair game? Or do they create unintended bias? And where do we draw the line between someone's right to personal expression and the need for unbiased legal proceedings? It's not a new issue, but this moment has brought it into sharp focus. One side argues that any restrictions on religious symbols could be seen as an attack on freedom of faith. After all, in the United States, people are guaranteed the right to express their religious beliefs, even in court. Telling someone to remove a cross, a headscarf, or a religious ring could be seen as discrimination or suppression. But others say that context matters. And in a courtroom, where justice is meant to be blind, any visible symbol, whether religious, political, or cultural, could unintentionally affect the way a jury sees a witness. Imagine a witness wearing a MAGA hat, or a BLM pin, or a massive gold cross. One legal ethics professor said, "Would that feel neutral? Probably not. Would it influence the jury? Maybe. That's the problem. We don't really know how deeply these symbols affect decision-making." And so, the discussion now stretches beyond Melania. It raises fundamental questions about how justice is carried out in the age of optics, media, and online judgment. Where once testimony was king, now images and symbols may carry equal weight, especially when clips, screenshots, and hashtags go viral long before the facts are fully understood. For Melania Trump, the storm of attention doesn't seem to have changed her public stance. She has returned to what many call her signature silence. No tweets, no press statements, no interviews, nothing to confirm or deny what the necklace meant, if it meant anything at all. And that silence has only amplified the intrigue, because while she said nothing, the image of her on that witness stand, composed and calm, with a silver cross resting just beneath her collarbone, has already etched itself into the public consciousness. Whether intentional or not, That image has become part of the broader narrative, not just of the case itself, but of our cultural moment. A moment where even the smallest accessory can ignite a firestorm. Some believe Melania knew exactly what she was doing, that the cross was deliberate, chosen to evoke strength, purity, or sympathy. Others think it's a distraction, blown out of proportion by a media culture desperate for symbolism and scandal. But regardless of where you stand, one thing is clear: the moment mattered. It's a reminder that in courtrooms, especially high-profile ones, words matter, but so do symbols. The law may live in transcripts and evidence logs, but justice often lives in perception. And in this polarized, media-driven age, perception spreads fast and digs deep. We live in a world where everything is scrutinized, where silence is interpreted, where jewelry becomes a message, and where public figures no longer need to speak to be heard. The courtroom is no longer sealed off from the outside world. Even when cameras aren't present, sketches, descriptions, and public reactions create a powerful second courtroom, the court of public opinion, where trials are fought in memes, hashtags, and 30-second videos. And in that space, a silver cross necklace wasn't just an accessory. It was a symbol, a spark, a conversation starter that has already shifted how people see Melania Trump, and perhaps how they view the entire legal process surrounding her husband. So what's the lasting impact? For now, the necklace remains a mystery, both literally and symbolically. We don't know where it came from, what brand it is, or if it was chosen with any specific purpose in mind. We don't know if Melania meant to influence anyone, or if she was simply wearing something that brings her comfort. But we do know this: it worked. It drew attention. It shaped headlines. It created questions that no courtroom ruling has yet answered. And maybe that's the most powerful statement of all. Not one spoken from the witness stand, but one that shimmered quietly, just below the surface. In a courtroom built on facts, sometimes it's the quietest symbols that speak the loudest. What do you think Melania's necklace really meant? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more in-depth coverage and breaking stories. Thanks for watching.